Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big drama hitting the VALORANT scene again last night. Further allegations on this fluorescent situation that continue to do rounds in the VALORANT scene, but also the qualifiers happening for the Esports World Cup, and NRG with FNS watching on get a rather impressive result that potentially shows they're taking a serious step in the right direction. Cubit Academy, not the debut they would have wanted with TenZ. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Not 100% sure what Banner's getting at here with the whole "it's a terrible day for rain." Maybe we'll see in due course. I'll keep refreshing things. We might see something interesting. Now, I mean, look, there's been so many documents hitting the timeline over the last couple of days. This actually happened very shortly after I made yesterday's video live with some even more fresh allegations. And then there was another, document that hits the timeline right here. Now, this was pretty controversial because I think it definitely tells the story of someone who is not well emotionally adjusted. It seems like Flor in this case was asking this individual. So Flor was like 16 at this time, and this individual here was 18. And Flor was asking to basically groom her, claiming, well, anyway, that was kind of what the screenshots and everything said. And look, it's nothing from like a criminality perspective. It probably, it's not painting the same picture as that first initial document with the absolutely major allegations, which have still been dominating the headlines, really. But I think people have come up with just assessments to show that, that there was more sides to this story and more individuals involved. And this individual says that, look, nothing happens here apart from these messages. So I know that, some people are going to say, well, anyway, I think people just want to understand that there is more sides to this character than many people recognize, and that was obviously a load of screenshots that are going around here. I'm not going to go through all the stuff again, but again, it's just another document has hit the timeline, a third document has hit the timeline again, and there's just so much to this. I mean, there was even this from Razora, who was involved in a scandal a couple of years ago, kind of controversial fashion. They were talking about frustration about Fluorescent's name getting hidden and all this. And so Razora was in that case with Dawnmower we talked about a couple of days ago, and mentioning a couple of things. There's no reason to hide the name in this circumstance. Now, Razora actually did another post on this, kind of, I think, describing, I mean, it was a bit of a strange one. All it really talked about, if the screenshot that I saw was correct, is Flor asking to pick her up from the airport or something, and then it just never happened. But anyway, so then I think the statement got retracted because there was some backlash to it. But at the end of the day, you're seeing loads of individuals put at least something out there with this situation. What happens next? I mean, I don't know. What may happen next is what we started to see here. This was yesterday. So with, another document in the timeline on experience with this Rifty VT character as well. And there's a lot of things happening right now. It's possible that with Brick coming out through Kitty, I think was initially who made the post, that means that victims of similar things in the scene feel more confident that they can speak up about their experiences. So, even if, and that's a big if, the Flor drama is certainly not over. It's going to continue. There's going to be repercussions. There's going to be discussions. But even if all of the documentation and the evidence and the stories that we're hearing about Fluorescent have now come out and been had, it's very plausible that there's other individuals that have had questionable experiences with other individuals in the scene, and there might be some Google Docs continually getting put together here. So from the perspective of Riot's PR, it's not great. It's not looking great. It's not getting any better. And, nor should it, frankly, if this situation is unfolding as we believe that it did. Now, of course, the other drama, before all the Fluorescent stuff kicked off, the big drama was around the match fixing, right? And whether that was a thing, what that looks like, and who is potentially implicated. There have been some names going around. I'm sure that Sean Gares is continuing the investigation behind the scenes, and Riot Games are apparently as well doing so. So we'll see. I think some names, we will start to hear about this at some point. I mean, look, this was just like a copy paster in a Twitch chat. But, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Xander was kind of considered to be, before he joined 100T, the tier 2 farmer. Turns out everyone was just throwing against you, unlucky. So I thought that was pretty funny. But we are going to start to see some names, I'm sure, relatively soon in terms of which names, which individuals may have been involved in throwing some of these matches. Because Yeah, that's a massive deal, and the type of money that we believe was getting exchanged behind the scenes is no small change by any means. Vitality had a very difficult finish to the stage. They did not make it through the EWC qualifiers, we'll see in a second. Now, Cubit Academy, after their result last night, they sit down and say, hey, Sin City, lots to talk about, and people are saying, oh no, maybe it's going to be happening, right? So, of course, TenZ subbed in for Cubit. They played a game in the playoffs yesterday. We had Envy. They played up against YFP. Envy got the dub in that series. There is, it's again very interesting. It's difficult to really talk about this match fixing stuff right now in the context because we don't really know who was involved to what extent. But it is definitely plausible that some of these players may have been implicated and may continue to be implicated at some point. So Winthrop then played Cubit and they got the 2-0 dub. So, unfortunately wasn't TenZ on the Neon the debut back that he necessarily would have wanted because they go down to Winthrop, who are a good team in their own right. But of course, after Cubit have lost Scuba to the Pro League, they'd be hoping to take the win. But it's early days of that new team and who, maybe he's going to summon for the rest of the playoffs as well. Chet's Pets, which is a pretty sensational picture, I'm not going to lie. They end up going down to TSM. They take the 2-1 loss. It's kind of remarkable to think about. So this is Victor, right? Here he is playing for Chet's Pets. And it's remarkable because Victor and Crashies, they were the duo for such a long time. And I'm sure that Victor feels some type of way about the fact that FNS, or the Fnatic, decided that they were going to side it. Obviously, FNS2 were those guys back in the day. We'll talk about FNS in a second. That Fnatic decided to pick up Crashies. Not saying they should have got Victor, right? But the point is that Crashies was signs in a situation very similar to Victor's. And now Crashies is winning the region and going on to play in Toronto. And Victor, unfortunately, is not. But I think because Crashies and Victor are considered to be maybe so similar, similarly respected by many individuals in the scene as well, there's a good chance maybe that Crashies or that Crashies' recent success also helps Victor get signed back into the league as well. I guess we'll see. But in the end, they went down. Ambrosia, they went down to the Burger Boys. So it's YFP, Cubit, and Lower round 1. And this is the way the playoffs bracket currently looks. The other important bracket to get into is what's happening right now in the EWC qualifiers. This was Marved, of course, because he stepped in for Chet's Pets as well, just to, conclude everything, because M80 are now defunct. They're done and dusted here in the Valorant world. So now they're playing under this new team name after some of their guys got poached, of course, by Leviathan. So anyway, that's happening there. Marved has heated up, but a bit too late. But then FNS decided that he was going to stream the EWC qualifiers. And I thought this is really great what he did here, right? Because people want to watch the Valorant. Obviously, the EWC is a very controversial tournament, and for good reason. But the other argument, as I said the other day, is that, the EWC are not just sponsoring EWC and putting on that tournament, they're also sponsoring the league. We know, in Valorant Toronto, Masters Toronto, at the World Championship this year in Paris, there will be adverts, there will be discussions around the Esports World Cup. And the Saudi money that's going in to make the World Cup happen is also going into making these other tournaments happen. So, on some level, if you want to boycott one, you've got to consider whether you're going to boycott the other as well. But I do understand why a lot of the players and the watch partiers are just going to say, you know what, we're not going to broadcast any of the Esports World Cup stuff, certainly not the qualifiers. Let's be real, in my opinion, by the time the teams actually get out there to Riyadh, and especially as the tournament goes down to the wire, I think there will be some watch partiers that say, yeah, you know what, I think I'll just do it anyway. I think that will start to happen. And whether, whatever your perspective on that is from a moral angle, that's up to you. But I would be surprised maybe if this boycott remains for the entirety of the tournament. We'll see. FNS decide, a lot of controversy around the event. So all subs and donos from phase 1 and 2 will go to financial aid for my manager's mum, who is currently battling cancer. So I thought that was absolutely wonderful from FNS. And he turns the stream on yesterday and they broadcast, because now finally they can, the qualifiers. So just quickly through Europe, if you guys didn't see this over the last couple of days, FUT Esports took down Na'Vi, Carmine Corp took down FUT in the upper side. So those are the two teams that qualified through to get to the second round. Vitality are long gone. The second phase there is this. So it's Liquid versus FUT Esports, BBL versus KC. Two of those teams will make it to the World Cup. Two of those teams will not. Of course, Fnatic and Heretics will be there for sure because they were top two in their own region. So yeah, Liquid, FUT Esports, BBL, KC, they play over the next couple of days this weekend to determine what happens over there. In the Pacific, it's a different format because for some reason this is how it goes, and this is how that looks over the next couple of days. They've got some single round robin games coming up very, very shortly indeed. But the Americas concluded yesterday with NRG taking down Cloud9 2-0. And NRG are looking real impressive lately, right? I mean, Cloud9, they're a team that in this type of situation, we know that they do like to choke in the playoffs, so it is what it is. But NRG come through, they win the first game 13-9. Obviously, the Scuba edition from Qbet Academy has been pretty exciting, and then they won the Cloud9, or they won the Icebox 13-9 as well against Cloud9 again. So, yeah, Marder with 29-16 on the second map here. I know that even Rob Moore was talking about how he was even supporting NRG to some degree because he wants Scuba to do well, while Sentinels aren't involved, of course, in these qualifiers because they obviously came top 2 in their region. They are guaranteed to be there at the World Cup regardless. So this then is the bracket. MIBR play NRG in a couple of days. EG play 100T. 2 of those teams will qualify, 2 of those teams won't. And who's it going to be? It's very, very tough to call. I mean, obviously MIBR were 3rd in their region, so they are effectively the favourites. EG were 4th, so they're not far behind. But I will say 100T looked nice in their bracket run so far. You know, they beat NRG to get there, and then they beat Cloud9, right? And, I mean, NRG did the same thing, obviously. They also beat Fury 100T to get their way there, and NRG lost 2-1. So, you know, it's going to be all to play for, but NRG with their new team, they're potentially going to improve every single series, and if that continues to be the case, then they could be a serious threat going into the rest of this season, and certainly for the World Cup. So good result for NRG. I think FNS was talking about how, damn, these guys are looking pretty perfect right now. 2-0'd Lev, went down to 100T 2-1, but since then 2-0'd 2G, 2-0'd Crew, and now 2-0'd Cloud9. So they're potentially on the road. Very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.